But let's get started with talking about Chronohunter. So thank you very much again for joining us. Um, for those who've joined, this is Sam and Max, who are the founders and owners, I'm sure, as well, of Chronohunter, which is a interesting way of buying pre-owned. So it's both buying and selling pre-owned. So to start with, guys, could you just tell us about, how you got started and then what Chronohunter is today and why it might be different from any other platform that's out there at the moment?
Yeah, shall I go? Yeah, go on. Yeah, thanks for having us on. So Chronohunter was an idea that Max and I came up with in 2017. So we did a lot of, we're both interested in our watches. We did a lot of sort of market research, looking at watches online, popular brands, popular models, seeing what we could purchase. There was a lot of stock that was advertised that wasn't available. That you could, people were, certain retailers were advertising, you'd say, "Yep, can I come in today and buy it?" And they didn't actually have it. It was more just sort of fishing for customers. That wasn't physically available. We also had, we know from personal experience that the market is heavily targeted by um, people that are, have different motives, shall we say. So you do need to have your wits about you when you're selling privately on that side of the business. So we sort of wanted to create a safe environment for people to sell watches, but also get, a fair price, and be able to sell a watch quickly, not have it sitting around for 6, 7 months and dealing with time wasters. So that's where the idea of Chronohunter came up. So we started in 2019. Well, sorry, our first full year was 2019. We did 1.6 million pounds worth of watches in that year, and last year we did 14.5 million. So we've we've grown quite a lot over the
That
years.
is that's impressive.
Yeah, so we're continuing that, and people, we've got a healthy amount of positive reviews online, and our goal is really for any private individual coming to us that's looking to buy or sell a watch is to get them the best possible deal. There's on the buying side, there's always watches that retailers are happy to negotiate on, that they might not do sort of with their online listing, but they certainly would in person, and that's where our sort of live offers come in, where they would go, right, well, I don't actually have to advertise this watch to the public at this price, but I'm happy to offer it to this client at this price.
We get a lot of retailers who've just bought a watch in, that day, and one of our customers is looking for the same watch, and before it's even hit the workshop or anything like that, they can say, look, we can get this to you, but obviously it's got to go through our workshop, and it's sold straight away. And obviously they reduce their margin because they're not going to advertise it, they're not going to hold the stock, they're not having to pay their insurance, and the list goes on. So it's a tool that can be used for either buying or selling, where it creates a competitive market for, if you're looking to sell your watch, the other retailers can't see the offers you're getting. So it really puts you in the driving seat. And it also, there's quite a lot of watches out there where they're advertised at 200 grand, but they're not selling for 200 grand. And you get a lot of people pricing their watch off the market value. They look at it, but until you get 4 or 5 offers all around the same price, that's true market value. So it gives you some guidance where, other than walking into a shop and they offer you X amount, where because you're the only, that you've got nothing to compare it off. Where you come into us, you've got a handful of offers, and you can see, you're getting market value.
Yeah, I'll give two good examples, one on the buying side and one on the selling. So we had a customer who was looking to purchase a watch, new watch actually, and had been into, I think he'd actually called or been into 2 or 3 different authorized retailers of that brand, and no one was willing to negotiate on the price. And he came to us and said, "Look, I want one of these." And I think we got him 20% off the retail price straight away. So he was very happy with that. He wanted the watch and would have probably paid full price for it, but people like to get a deal. So, and retailers are happy to do that via our platform. On the selling side, we had a customer who was selling, this was a couple of years ago now, but it's a great example of our service. It was a Patek Philippe Nautilus Tiffany stamp dial, and he said, I want £50,000 for it. So we said, look, normally if it was a watch that we've done a lot of, we have the data to say, this is what you should expect to see in offers. And if they're happy with that, it'll go live and get offers. But we hadn't actually done one of these before, and there wasn't enough data to put a price on it. So we just said, look, let's just put this up with no price, put it out to our retailers and see who wants to offer on it, how much they want to offer. And I think the best offer that we got was £90,000. So he's ended up £40,000 more than what he asked for. And had he walked into maybe some retailers, not all, but some retailers might have gone, well, 45, and he would have shook their hand, and he wouldn't have known any better. But so we're trying to get the best value for the client. And the retailer who bought that watch still, had a healthy margin in it, and sold it on.
Yeah. So I think my first question is the same question, but it's two different sides, which is how you pre-qualify the retailers to make sure that they're legitimate and they are able to send the stock as described, And then the same question is if you're a private seller, what's the process for them making sure that what they're purporting to sell is what it should be, with authentication and servicing needs, etc.
I'll go over if you're looking to sell your watch first. So you've got a Rolex Submariner. Let's say you put the watch in, upload it onto Chronohunter. We then receive the images, everything about the watch. We then have the data to see what that watch is selling for, and also what that watch is being sold for in the trade. And we will send an estimate to the customer. There's use some simple terms, £10,000 to £11,000. It's in the region of that. If a customer is looking for 30,000, we'll inform them that it's not possible, and we don't want to waste your time, because we can't do that for you. If they're happy with the estimate, it'll then go live, and then it allows the retailers to start offering. Once they are happy with the offer gets accepted, and what happens is then the customer sends their watch either to the retailer or drops it off. It gets inspected by the retailer, and the retailer runs it through the lost and stolen register and does all the checks, and then we release the funds to the customer once the retailer is happy.
Yeah, so the retailer has the responsibility of inspecting the watch to make sure it's genuine, and like Matt said, puts it through the register, lost and stolen, and does all their checks to make sure they're happy. And on the buying side, we do have strict criteria. We like to look at the retailer. Have they got a premises? How long have they been trading? What sort of
premises?
What sort of reviews have they got? Do they have people that can refer them in the industry? It's a small market. A lot of people know each other, so if we can get a referral, that always helps. And we do have this criteria to make sure that it is only reputable retailers that we work with. We've had a lot of smaller retailers, and even like your bedroom dealers apply to work with us that we don't work with.
They just don't hit the criteria. If we're putting our name against watches being sold, and there's a problem at the year's time, and there's a 2-year warranty, we're more than happy to make sure the customer gets that resolved.
So do you offer any authentication services for a fee or anything like that then, or is it always the retailer partners that do that?
Not at the moment. We've looked into it. It's something that we will look into doing right now, because the volume of watches we're doing it bottlenecks it too much.
Yeah.
But a person who's selling their watch, 9 times out of 10, once they've committed to sell, they want to get on with it. After buying something else, or whatever it is personally. But what we do to make sure the customer's happy is we don't release the funds until the retailer has given us the nod on the watch and make sure it's happy.
Yeah, I think because we're private to business, we don't have that need at the moment. If we were to go private to private, that would definitely be something that we would need to offer, because we've seen watches, we've had watches well, a watch in particular came through and it was an actual genuine watch, but the movement was not genuine.
Yeah.
You know, and that only came to light once the retailer had done an inspection on that. The customer was unaware, you know, so they obviously had to go back to where they'd bought that from and query that. But, you know, had that been a member of the public who may not have done their check, that would have been a problem. So that's why
we don't do private to private.
Yeah, exactly. And
it's the Wild West, and we've avoided it.
So with that, how big is the available market like with your retail partners then? So, you know, how many watches, you know, is it only a certain kind of watch that really has liquidity? Or
a little bit of background on it. I think last week the cheapest watch was about £500-600 tag, and up to about £175,000 watch. So we've got retailers that only deal with tags. We've got retailers that only deal with Patek Philippe. We've got retailers who only deal with Richard Mille. We've got a real spread. You know, people who only want to do vintage. So we have a real spread of retailers to make sure that everyone can be looked after who comes through the platform.
Yeah, and this would be like from your family run business with a high street store to a PLC that, you know, needs a lot of stock to coming in all the time. Yeah.
No, that's impressive. And how did you, the final question from me, just because it's from a business perspective question, then I'll open it up to the rest of the group. How did you build these relationships? Has it been just you guys going out there and getting it, or do you have other ways?
It's a real mixture. My background's London real estate. I bought a watch, it must be 15 years ago. Everyone thought that's very nice. Where do I get one of them? I've never been a watch dealer. I've never aspired to be one. It wasn't what I was trying to do, but I had really good connections with retailers, and I'd say, you know, I'd really recommend them, and that grew bigger and bigger. And then once Sam and I set it up, we used a couple of those retailers to sort of get us going. And then obviously the word got out quite quickly that we were facilitating transactions. And then today we still have a man on the ground who is speaking to new retailers and you know, managing who we want to let on board or not, because there's a list of over 100 that want to apply, but they don't hit the criteria.
Yeah, and we, you know, it would be wrong to say it was easy. You know, it's very difficult at the beginning.
It was bloody hard, not easy.
Yeah, so some of these retailers, you know, especially in the early days, they'd be like, well, who are you and why the hell do we want to work with you?
Yeah.
You know, we got no need for you. But that's why we started off a lot on the buying side, and we would be, right, we've got a client who's interested in buying this watch, and we would speak to the retailer. And, you know, once they saw that, okay, fine, that transaction actually went through and, you know, it was a great client and everyone's happy, then they were happy to do more business with us. And we've managed to build these relationships over time. We've got a very good success rate on, like, you know, people making offers to customers that are looking to buy and sell, and that actually converting into business. So that's why they're happy to,
because of the vetting up front. You know, the classic, I want to steal Daytona at list price. We just won't go live on the platform because we can't facilitate it. We're not going to lie to them.
Yeah. And then progressing as we are now, we've got, like Max said, we've got a man who's focused on B2B, who's been in the business for 21 years, already got relationships with different retailers. And some of these retailers are very large and coming in, you know, getting more interested in the pre-owned market. And that's sort of where we see, you know, future growth and opportunities for us.
Great.
Sorry to interrupt really quickly. Dave Ollie has just texted to say he thinks he's in the waiting room trying to get in. Sorry, he's late.
Thank you. So he is. So yeah, would anyone else like to chime in? Any questions?
Maybe I could go first. Fascinating. Like, really, what a compelling offer. I have a couple of watches that I'll probably message you about tomorrow, actually, that it's a real faff as a seller of a personal seller of a watch to deal with either a shop, because invariably they get greedy or they don't want your watch, and you have to do a lot of legwork. And some of the platforms you end up, spending a lot of time waiting for somebody to like buy a watch for you. Difficult to get the pricing right. So for me, that's really attractive. Do you think there is any real? Is there such volume going through your platform that actually it doesn't really matter what the watch is? You can typically shift it, or do you find that there are brands in particular that you find very easy to move,
Look,
and any that you find very difficult to move?
Look, Rolex is bread and butter. It's volume. Most retailers accept it because it moves quickly once they've purchased it. Obviously, the market has changed a hell of a lot since COVID. Patek Philippe, Nautiluses were, we couldn't get enough on the platform, and the offers were going up weekly. That world's not here anymore, so obviously it's slowed down. What we find is, there are some unusual watches which don't have the audience that Rolex do, and if a retailer is going to buy it, they know it's going to sit on the shelf for a long time. So the offers are never as good as a Rolex offer against the price they'll be selling it for. So yes, watches can stick around.
Yep.
If it's not the wrong watch, I don't want to say that, but if it's the watch which isn't desirable and it hasn't got papers and it hasn't got this, we're not saying everything we put up sells.
Yeah, I mean, there's always a buyer, but then the price is going to be the price point, isn't it? As to if that's something someone's selling willing to accept, and a retailer would say, well, actually, if it's not as desirable, I might have it in stock for a couple of years. Then I need to make a bigger margin on it because my money will be tied up for longer, and you still have to stock it and insure it and advertise it and have all these conversations. So. But yeah, I mean, a lot of the, Rolex, Omega, tags, Breitlings, the more popular brands, certainly, we do a lot of them.
That's the volume. But there'll be such a watch like a Hublot where the customer would have paid £20,000 and 2 years later they want to change their watch. Well, we can straight away normally buy that for 20 to 25% off new. We normally see roughly, it depends on which one. And then a retailer is going to obviously want a margin. So then before you know it, their offer is, 40p in the pound of what they've paid for it. And it's a hard discussion. No one likes to hear that. And then, so, we do try to educate the customer why that is, because, it's a hard conversation to have. But if you educate people, it's normally the easiest and smoothest way to, see what happens.
But then on the flip side, you do see people that, on the selling side, if they're looking to sell a watch and they've paid, £1,000 for it and it's now worth 10, that's a lot easier conversation. And if it's an older chap, who's owned the watch for many years and looking to move it on, that's a bit easier than someone who's purchased it last year and lost half the value of it. But yeah, we do find, and there's different, like Max said before, there's different retailers that will be interested in different watches. We had a Daytona Le Mans that got discontinued today, that we did last week for a client who, I think it was a £50,000 watch, and we got him 3 times that amount. So, it was I can imagine he was quite happy with that. We did a Cartier Crash recently, which is another very interesting watch. And there wasn't huge amount of offers on it, but there were good offers from the retailers that have that clientele that's suitable for those watches.
And a follow-up question: do you reckon? Have you worked out typically how much more money your clients get, kind of on average, using you when they're selling watches to retailers than if they try themselves?
It fluctuates on brands. It's a very broad. Let's say Rolex, 9 times out of 10 we get a better price because what the retailers like is that we've vetted the client beforehand. So people who are selling Rolexes are doing volume because they're taking a small margin on it because they know it sells in a good time frame. So if we can make sure the client has all the appropriate paperwork for the watch and make sure that they are ready to sell, they will take a smaller margin on it through us because they know the transaction is going to happen. And these retailers are busy, so if they do 50 offers and they get them all and they all transact appropriately, it's good time for them, right? And then a lot of people, say, oh, I'm going to sell you this watch and it hasn't got the right bits, and they turn up and then they have to go back, and it's time consuming for these retailers. So that's where we've done the upfront work of making sure we're happy for it to go live, and that's where we see extra value. And also we see retailers having a customer who's in their shop wants to watch, and they know it's sitting on our platform, and that's where they can afford to pay over the odds because they've already sold it. And that's where customers go, this is too good to be true. And we have to explain it. Go, look, I know everyone else is at 11 grand and they're at 12, but it's because they've already sold it, and they're making, instead of making that £1,500 out of it, they're making 500 because it's an easy deal for them, and you're benefiting. So that's where we see a big benefit.
One of our things on our long list of projects for Chronohunter is to like extract a lot of the data, because we know we've got a lot of accurate pricing on watches that maybe is not so accessible for people, and some of the data out there is a bit skewed by like what prices watches are listed at. So we know we need to really that's on the list to make that accessible, and we want to get on with that. But one of the interesting thing about the offers, we often have customers who come to us and say, I actually had an offer from that retailer that was less than the offer that they gave me through your platform. So, but because it's a competitive environment, they've gone, well, this person's come direct to me, I'll offer this. And then when it comes to our platform, they say, well, actually, it's a competitive environment, I'll offer a bit more because I do actually want to buy this. So I'll pay a bit more than that. So same way as like if someone was in their store, they would probably feel inclined to try and give a little bit less of an offer to have room for negotiation. But with us, it's like we always say, look, if you do want to purchase that watch from a customer, put your best foot forward, because someone else will, and then you'll just miss out on it.
Yeah, I guess I had one question. Just interested in the way you've got this database, if you like, or the data historically of the different sales. One thing I was curious about, do you find that there's a seasonality at all to the type of watches you're buying? I realize you've said like Rolex tends to be the bread and butter, but I like the idea, say you're coming up to Christmas. Is there something you would want to make sure is on the platform, for example?
With Christmas, it's not as black and white as we all think, because Christmas, a lot of these watches are bought for them yourself, the personal. They're not really gifts as such. We see a spike in ladies' watches over Christmas to being bought. That's more probably of a man not knowing what to buy a woman, and he likes a watch, and that sounds like a good idea. And that's the type of bloke I am, so I know all about that. Yeah, she would rather something else probably, but last minute Max here, too busy trying to make things happen, and then you go and do that. So we see that around there, and also sometimes after bonus time, tax year, things like that. You can there's different reasons, but it's a pretty steady market throughout.
But I do see, I mean, it's a tricky one for us as well, because we started, our first full year was 2019. We've had Brexit, we've had COVID, we've had pending war, so I imagine our stats are not so, accurate at the moment, but we are starting to see sort of seasonalities. And obviously where we're pushing the business, we're always doing more volume each year. So I imagine as we get bigger and we hopefully we don't stop growing, but the bigger companies will probably see more of that seasonality. What I can say is in sort of January, February, we do see a lot of selling of watches, more than the rest of the year. And then, like Max said, sort of Christmas time and maybe end of tax year, you do see, people buying around those periods as well. But it was your question more about the brands being seasonality, being seasonal, like people interested in different brands, or just like buying and selling in general?
I was gonna say, I think you more sort of covered it really, because I guess,
Okay.
like you say, it's not going to be black and white, and especially if someone's buying for themselves, that could be like really hyper
Possibly,
specific, I suppose.
it's
Yeah.
someone saved up for it. Someone's buying it for a family member. It's really not. It might be a birthday more than a Christmas.
Yeah.
It's a bit more like spread across the year.
Had a baby, we get a lot of that.
Yeah.
You know, just had my first child. I want to mark the occasion by buying myself a watch that I'm going to give to them in 18 years and that sort of thing.
Okay, but do seasons or events affect, brand sales? For instance, like the Opens on, Amiga is absolutely everywhere, or Moonswatch comes out, and then people realize that they can actually get the real deal for not a lot
Yeah,
more
I
than
would
some
yeah.
people
definitely
were
say
paying
that
for.
does have an impact. You know, like now
Yeah.
we've got Watches and Wonders Week. There's a lot of interest around watches in general. You know, some of the bigger brands we've seen sort of leading up to it, speculation. You know, people were buying GMT
Pepsis.
Pepsis
Yeah.
just speculating, and that's going to be discontinued, and there's only going to be the white gold one available, and sort of a lot of inquiries about those watches leading up to the
A lot of
event.
disappointed people today
Yeah.
who bought
Would have been
Pepsis for the last 3
something.
It's a
months.
yearly event. It's a yearly event.
But I mean,
Yeah.
it's exciting though, isn't it? It's something to talk about.
Yeah.
There's one I might jump in with. Obviously, if it's on the site, you don't have to say. But has there ever been a watch that surprised you in that it's taken quite a long while to shift, or something that's come in that you're quite excited about that then was a bit of a shock?
Well, yeah, it can fluctuate, such as that Cartier crash. It's a £150,000 watch plus. There's not much data out there to see, what they're selling for. There's not many people that actually want to stock that watch as well. It is a large amount of money. And then, it only takes one retailer to want that watch. And, before you know it, a transaction's happened in, 4 or 5 hours. So that can catch you off guard, where you just don't know what retailer has got a customer for what. So, and then, there was, since COVID, obviously, like the Patek Philippe market and the Nautiluses came off hard. There was watches which were pushing 300,000 and they're under 200. That is obviously a market condition which slows watches down like that.
Yeah, I think, and these watches, there's watches that come up now and again that you do get quite excited about. If we haven't, the guys enjoy it if they see something that's a bit different. In the office where they go, oh, have a look at this. I mean, that Cartier crash was a customer who sold an Amiga or something. I think it was.
It was a £3,000 watch beforehand.
Amiga. And then he said, "Oh, I've got this as well. If you can."
Yeah, he went, I love this service. Yeah, we get that quite a lot of time. Oh, wow, that was a service. I'm really impressed with that. And here's my 200 grand watch. So, you never know who you're speaking to. Trust me, we're always telling our sales team is, if it's a £600 watch or £600,000 watch, it's still a watch. It's still a service. Make sure you do everything we want to be done.
Yeah,
that's totally what we believe in.
Yeah, and give the service. Ultimately, you're dealing with a luxury item. People expect to be treated a certain way, whether they are buying or selling it. So we like to have that personal element with the transaction. We've got. I mean, there's probably too many to say really. Different interesting watches that have turned up. We deal with. There's been interesting people like different celebrities or sports people that have come through us who are looking to buy or sell. They tend to have some interesting watches as well. It's every day different.
Given the huge range of values, do you have a flat fee or do you have a sort of scaling fee depending on
we have a minimum fee, and then we have a scaling fee. And then people do ask why does that scaling fee, you're not capped here, this and that, is because the work what goes into the higher value watches is a hell of a lot more. You know, a 200 grand watch will take someone's full time for, you know, a couple of days. Yeah, where a £10,000 Rolex, they're happening, right? So it's a lot of risk reward on the higher end watches, because you could do all of that work and it falls out of bed quite easily. And funny enough, there's been a sales gentleman on there for 2 days and he's got nothing to prove for it. So, you know, there is a lot of work what happens in the background where, you know, we are out there making sure we are getting the best value for this customer.
Could I ask a question actually? So although I've collected watches for a while, I've never really tracked their value, and I started using like Chrono24, for example. You know, I don't know how accurate it is, but they do have data on the watches they've sold. But what I've noticed in recent, well, even more, I'd say recent years, is that there seems to be a lot of businesses that have popped up either where you can bid for a watch through an auction. I can't remember if it was called Watch Collector or something.
Yeah, watch collection. So they are
yes.
a pure online auction house.
Yeah, so you've got them, and then you've got like Subdial as well, who sell watches. So it just seems to have been a real influx, I guess, of those kinds of businesses. How have you found that?
Subdial is a company that would work with us. Do you know what I mean? They're not. It's not a competitor. There would be someone who buys from us and sells for us. So they are another retailer as such.
Okay.
So we are fueling the market for those type of people. That's, you know, that's where we are. We're helping people.
Yeah, and it sounds like from what you're saying, you've got quite a hands-on approach. It's not all done
it looks like it happens all, you know, the computers whirring and you know, everything's, you know, there's only 2 people in the office, I wish. And no, it's hands-on. You know, if you're, especially with a more expensive watch, the customer, you know, the retailer wants to know, you know, has it got this, has it done that? You know, the information is key, and it's a lot of to and fro with the customer. The customer might not understand what we're asking, so, you know, maybe some more images, a video. So yeah, it's the work in the background, making sure the customer's happy and the retailer's happy.
I mean, some of the pricing data that you mentioned, some of it's quite, you know, some of the places you see online can be quite off the mark. Because I'm not sure what the algorithms can be, but it may be taking into account listing prices. Whereas
we know some are listing prices because people were listing watches higher to try and bump their own value up. It's not real data. You know, the core data is what has something sold for. End of.
Yeah.
You know, you can't argue with that. That is the core data. Not is what is someone dreaming of.
Yeah, and it might be like, it could be, you know, a retail price, but you as a private individual wouldn't achieve a retail price because you're not offering a warranty. You know, you don't have a premise. You're not offering that service that comes along with that. So you would never be able to get that same premium that a retailer would. But then, you know, you might see a price that would reflect that price, which is kind of, you know, not right.
Excellent. Thank you.
So, I mean, maybe you could talk us through some of the trends you've seen over the last 6 months then. As you said, the 2021 and 2022 were a huge bubble, pure and simple in a lot of watches. A very small part of the entire watch market, but an important part. And it was fairly obvious it was a bubble when it was happening, and now it's very clear it was a bubble. But you're selling a lot of different things. So could you maybe talk us through some of the trends you have seen, just at whatever level, really? Be interesting.
Yeah, in sort of like a price point, there's definitely sort of below sort of £10,000 mark, people are still very active in, you know, buying and selling watches in that, you know, in that area.
Perhaps the market the less really, you know, from the bubble where, you know, a £8 watch might have gone to 9, but instead of a £50,000 watch went to 90. So it's been more of a fluid market under the £10,000 mark. So, and we've also seen retailers change the way they're working. as in not wanting to stock these watches which were fluctuating so much. So as soon as no one wants to stock them, obviously the price gets driven down more. So we saw that happen quite quick. We've seen it stabilize now. It feels like it's really leveled off now. You know, we would be getting a watch in and we'd be going, right, that's what it was last week. What is it this week? It made our job really hard. It was moving that quick. So, you know, we were having to keep an eye on the data to make sure we were giving information correctly.
There's definitely less speculators in the market. You know, you get more people that are actually looking to buy a watch because they like it, as opposed to, and to enjoy it and to wear it. You know, as opposed to, we had a period where people might buy 2 or 3 of the same watch, you know, and go, well, I'll wear one and I'll put two away, that sort of thing. Whereas you're not seeing as much of that, and people sort of going after, you know, I'll look at buying this now because it is more, you know, these luxury watches, I wouldn't ever say affordable, or, you know, but they are, you know, not so out of reach, some of them that perhaps were a bit very inflated in price. We're seeing a lot of people that are more like going after different watches, if that makes sense. So something that you may not see everyone wearing, you know, still from popular brands, but might be more interested in sort of like a bit of an older watch.
We had a conversation with one of a customer recently. You know, he sits around the table at work and it's like you're wearing a you know, part of your school uniform. Everyone's got a still Daytona on, and he's going, I rocked up with a 28-year-old Rolex I bought for you guys, and it was a talking point. It was still a Rolex, it was still that, but you know, let me try that on, you know. And he goes, it was funny, you know, everyone had a Rolex, but this is an older Rolex, and you know, a bit of patina on it, and there's a talking point. And we think and we feel that is a market which is on the way up, where people still want to have a Rolex, but they want to talk about something different. Where, you know, a bit like what you're wearing, Stan, today. You bought that because it's different, and it was your date of birth. You know, it's just to be a bit different instead of everyone wearing the same watch.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's what we see and we hear from our members and our event attendees. There's a huge growth in people trying to find different watches, different brands that are new to them, or indeed going back to some more classic models or just different vintage models as well, provoking a lot of interest.
And we had one of our team that was at the British watchmaking event recently, and the feedback from him was like, you know, great for some of these, you know, micro brands as well. They had really good days, and they felt that there was a lot of interest in the market. So it's, you know, I think there's positive signs in the watch market as a whole.
And also, you've got watches which are like under retail price in Rolex, which hasn't been seen for a long time, which is sparking the interest of people that had battled so hard to get it at retail and now can buy it under. It's not given. They're going, well, I'll have to buy it now, don't I? You know, it's a bit of a conversation. Or we spoke to someone who was looking at a day olive dial. Really wanted one, went to go and buy one, and they were peak of the market at 70,000, 80,000 pounds. Well, they're more than half that now, and he's going, well, I want to buy that watch. I like that. I'll have that. You know, it's sort of just a reset in the market.
Yeah, an inevitable reset for some brands for sure. So what's next for Chronohunter then? What are you most excited about doing for the business, and where the opportunities lie in the next couple of years for Chronohunter?
So we are focused. We're going through like an investment round at the moment, which we've opened out to our customer base. So we're going through that, and that is to deploy the capital to grow the company and in a few different areas. So we're pushing on the media, so creating a lot of articles, getting organic traffic. We're in conversation with some of the bigger retailers that we work with to integrate you know, their stock onto the website, but it will still be with our same concept. So it'll be, you know, listing the watches without the pricing, and then the inquiry goes through. That retailer can then, you know, present an offer to the customer along with other retailers as well. But that will bring more organic visitors to the website, because we do know you know, on the buying side, the thing we're lacking is people being able to browse through watches, you know,
All right.
which people do like to do. On the selling side, we're improving the customer, the user experience for both the retailer and the private customer, so you can keep track of the whole process, you know, when it's in for inspection, when it's been dispatched, you know, integration with an insured courier, all that sort of thing. And we're wanting to get into the US market as well. So there's lots of areas we need to work on. So it's still very early days.
So if anyone's interested in that fundraising, they should email you directly, I guess.
Yeah, so we've got investors at chronohunter.com. So
Okay.
Or Max or Sam.
or Max or Sam at chronohunter.com. Yeah, it's fine. But we're going through that. We've got a lot of interested parties. We're having a lot of conversations. So I imagine we will, you know, look to close that fairly soon. But we haven't got an end date just yet. But yeah, it's going in the right direction.
Yeah, it's certainly a positive sign more generally if investors are interested in that. And obviously, you know, if you're successful with your round, it speaks well for what you guys have achieved already, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And we want to really, you know, get feedback from our clients as well and say, you know, what would you like? You know, how would you like us to do? We've got the idea of people being able to, you know, have a online storage facility as well, like what Chrono24 and others are doing, but with our take on it, you know, where you can track, you know, your watch and your insurance and that sort of thing. And if you do want to get offers on it, you can do that pretty. Yeah, exactly. So. And we also want to do more like events, you know, like it's been good talking to you, talking to the guys here. And we have like some affiliations with other companies that are outside of outside the watch business, but they have a similar audience, like, you know, cars and that sort of thing, that we're looking at how can we do a bit of like cross marketing and maybe put on an event where people can be invited down to, you know, look at some watches, look at some cars, that sort of thing. So yeah, just looking to establish more relationships, really.
Yeah, we're always happy to help kick event ideas around and tell you some of our experience and even help you put one on directly if that's suitable, depending on how we manage the stock.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we've got a few minutes left. Does anyone else have another question on the business or on the market or on watches? Anything really?
I do actually. So hi, my name is Jamalio. For a question, so I just signed up for your the Chronohunter. Was actually trying this out for for something I was actually researching at this point, and I saw that it's a pending request, so it's not automated, is it, at this point? So somebody actually physically takes care of the request.
Yeah, so what happens is that will then go into the hopper. One of the sales team will pick it up. They will check the images. They will check all the information that's been uploaded. If anything's missing, you'd receive a notification.
Right.
And then once we've got all the information to give you a estimate, you'll receive the estimate. Once you have the estimate, that then puts you in the driving seat if you'd like to accept that estimate to make the watch live to the community.
Okay, yeah, I see.
So it's a personal element, you know, what we don't want to do, because once it goes live, that will notify all the retailers. So when sort of at our very early stages, we didn't have this process of sort of going into pending, and we just had a lot of inquiries that would notify the retailers on the app, email, you know, and we don't know yet if that's a serious inquiry. So we have this, you know, we have this process of qualifying the inquiry, making sure that, you know, you're happy with everything, you're happy with how we describe the.
And also what we also see is people might not be as educated as everyone on this call regarding watches. So, you know, when the customer says it hasn't got papers, I'll go, but has it got a card? Oh yes, I've got a card. So we want to maximize the value by making sure that they are portraying their watch in the best possible way, because we wouldn't want them to lose out on any value which they have sitting there just without the knowledge.
The amount of inquiries we get coming through with no images, and they're looking
wrong images
to sell a watch.
Yeah,
you know, so we have sort of that process to make sure that it's like quality control as well to make sure that, you know, everyone's happy and we can present the watch in the best way. And, you know, the retailers are happy with the quality of the inquiries that are coming through.
Yeah, I love the personal touch, and so this does seem quite nice. Just I was just thinking about so what are your plans about, because this is not very you know it's not very easy to scale this model, is it?
So what we've got in the pipeline for scaling is the more data we are pulling together is the estimates can be automated, right? Using that data, third-party data, our data. So that is part of what we're doing with the round for funding, is to pull that together to speed up the process for yourself and us. And also where we're looking at different ways we could, you know, make sure the images are correctly the right way around, or how the watch is there, how different tools can check that. So there is a way to scale that up, and that's all down to tech really, to make sure we don't want to scale up and lose the quality. So we could probably do it halfway now if we put it live, but Sam and I aren't happy to do that.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're working on it. You know, we are very much aware that, you know, we will need these elements to scale the business. You know, and there will come a point where it's like, if the customer hasn't completed all the relevant information, we'll just chase that up, you know, automatically to say, look, you need to give us this minimum amount of information before we can do anything with this. That will be like the first point of automation. And then once we build out the data side on, you know, what we've done transaction wise, the information that we can gather from our other sources, then we'll be able to present estimates, you know, automatically. Then that will enable us to scale.
Yeah.
But we do want to keep the personal element. You know, it's nice to have that as well.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Thanks. Yeah, cheers.
I mean, it's been done in other luxury goods categories with other platforms. Some of them are running at huge scale.
Yeah.
But those companies have an authentication process as well in-house, you know, so it's a bit of a different business model.
Yeah, definitely. Look, if you've got a system like that where it gets booked in with the collection, it comes into you do the inspection. You know, we do want to integrate our way of doing things. So we'll find, you know, that as we grow, you know, as we go along, we'll find the best way of scaling and keeping our sort of USP as well.
Yeah.
And another thing actually that we will be pushing out soon, with, you know, hopefully in the next few months, is our or certainly this year at least, will be our referral scheme. Like we're working with it on some retailers already. You know, it's amazing to see the amount of business that gets turned down, you know, especially with customers that are looking to sell their watches. You know, there's some very big retailers that are turning down more than 25% of the you know, inquiries that are coming into them, and we want to help, you know, strengthen relationships with the retailers we work with by helping sort of assist those customers in selling those watches. So it's not just a, you know, no thanks, not for us. And also, you know, monetize that as well by offering a fee to referring that. And because we've got a larger retailer network, the chances are we will get that watch sold for them. So yeah,
it's very powerful, and it's one of those things where, you know, it takes a bit of time, but if you can make it work, you know, everybody slowly realizes that everybody getting that sale, even if you're never going to do that sale for a customer, making sure this sale happens somewhere quickly
the
is
customer's
huge benefit.
happy.
Yeah,
exactly, and we're happy and they're happy, because it's this sort of, you know, it's better than you turning someone down, isn't it, and going, no, go somewhere else.
Yeah, and just they might then buy a new watch off the first person.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, we've seen it. We've seen it from retailers who don't deal with watches over 50,000, the customer wants to sell a £70,000 watch, but wants to buy their £30,000 watch, they send them to us to get the transaction done.
Yeah, exactly. And like you just said, they might even be offered a watch, say, look, could you part exchange my watch? And it's not their type of stock. So they go, no, and rather losing out on that deal, they go, well, try Chronohunter. They'll help you get that sold. And once it's sold, you can then come and purchase the watch that you've got your eyes on.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. Well, that's a great place to end, an exciting place to end. So thank you very much for your time, especially because you're away and having crazy days in Geneva as well, which I'm sure you're enjoying, but are very tiring. So thanks for talking to us at such a late hour. And it was great to hear from you.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for your time, and
so interesting.
Have a great evening, everyone. Thank you.
Yeah,
You too.
thank you very much.
Take
Thanks,
care.
guys. That was
Thanks,
really
guys.
interesting.
Thank you very much.